It's the holiday season, and Santa is gearing up to deliver toys to all the good girls and good boys the globe over. What does Santa do when he needs to scale up his logistics and delivery operations to make sure everyone gets their gifts on time? Well, let's find out. What's up, everybody? If this is your first time here, welcome to BTP Fusion. I'm your host, Derek West. I'm sure all of you are eager to learn how Santa delivers on time, every time. So let's dive right in. So everybody knows Santa's not real, right? Yeah, it's true. Well, I know what you're thinking. Well, how did all those gifts get to all those deserving little kids? We know that it's scientifically proven that clicking the like and subscribe button helps, but isn't the full story. So, click the like and subscribe. All joking aside, Santa is real, and he's able to get all those gifts to good little boys and girls the world over. And I know that 100% for sure. Stick around to the end to find out why and how. But when Santa needs to get presents to where they need to be all over the world, he uses FedEx, UPS, and DHL. Keep in mind, he uses other companies and quasi-government agencies as well, like the US Postal Service. But when he needs those packages to be where they need to be, those are the big three. Now, I keep telling you I'm a poet, and I know it. When are you going to learn that that's the truth? But indeed, those are the three carriers that he prefers, particularly during the holiday season. Each of them specializes in shipping and logistics in their own special ways. As always, to learn why and how they specialize in their own ways, we need to look at their individual histories. Starting off with the oldest of the companies, UPS. UPS traces its history to 1907, when the American Messenger Company was started in Seattle by a 19-year-old James E. Casey and another teenager, Claude Ryan. Lesson there: don't let your age stop you from starting a company. You could be 19, 18, 17, 16, 15. I go all the way back to 0, but you know what I'm getting at. Your age is just a number. That is to say, don't let your age stop you from starting a great company. In any case, those guys were just a couple of young and upcoming entrepreneurs, and they didn't even self-fund. They started off with $100 as their initial capital. Keeping in mind $100 in 1907 is quite a bit of money today. James and Claude set up a shop in a cellar beneath Ryan's uncle's tavern. Their first employees ran errands and made deliveries on foot or by bicycle. They soon joined forces with a rival competitor and acquired their first delivery truck, a converted Model T Ford. Talk about old school. But at the time, that was high-grade tech. They decided to maintain a focus of delivering packages from stores and therefore changed the company name to Merchant Parcel Delivery. 2 years later, Casey began expanding the business outside of Seattle, opening operations in Oakland, California, where the company first used the name of United Parcel Service, and later in Los Angeles. In 1925, the entire company became known as United Parcel Service, the name we know and love today. And by the end of the decade, UPS was operating up and down the West Coast. In 1930, the United Parcel Service moved its headquarters to New York City. It steadily expanded thereafter. By the 50s, their core customers began changing their behaviors and increasingly began using their own cars to carry their purchases home. The company responded in 1953 by beginning the territorial expansion of its common carrier service, which it had offered in SoCal since the 1920s. In accepting packages from the general public, UPS put itself in competition with the Parcel Post Service of the U.S. Post Office, now the U.S. Postal Service. Competing with Uncle Sam is never easy, and it wasn't until 1975 that a good chunk of UPS's regulatory barriers to operate in all 48 contiguous states clear away. In that same year, they moved their corporate headquarters to Greenwich, Connecticut, and the company became international by expanding to Canada. Over the next 4 decades, UPS continued to increase its global presence, eventually offering services in more than 200 countries and territories. Other notable events in the company's history include the resumption of air freight, which it had tried out briefly in 1929, entering the field of overnight air delivery. The company started UPS Airlines in 1988. UPS Airlines operated from a main global hub in Louisville, Kentucky, and by the early 21st century, it ran a fleet of more than 200 jet aircraft. In 1991, UPS's headquarters were moved again to Sandy Springs, Georgia, a suburb of Atlanta. The company gained retail outlets in 2001 when it brought mailboxes, etc., later renamed the UPS Store. The UPS Store offered mailbox, shipping, and clerical services to individual and small businesses. Just a reminder, if you're getting value out of this video, be sure to like and subscribe, with much ferocity. But up next, we have Federal Express. In 1965, Yale University undergraduate Frederick W. Smith wrote a class paper that challenged what was possible in the urgent delivery marketplace. In the paper, he laid out logistical challenges facing biotech and electronic companies in terms of receiving the parts that they need in a timely fashion. Most air freight shippers at the time relied on passenger route systems, but the thrust of Smith's paper was that it didn't make economic sense for urgent shipments. The system he proposed was designed to accommodate time-sensitive shipments such as medicine, computer parts, and electronics. I wonder if the title of this paper was How to Start a Billion-Dollar Business with Shipping. In any case, there is some contention on what grade he received for the paper. Was it a C? Was it not a C? The reality is that isn't that important. The term paper outlined the premise of a billion-dollar business. I'll trade a C- for a billion-dollar business any day. Any offers? Anybody? I didn't think so. But in August 1971, following a stint in the military, Smith bought controlling interest in Arkansas Aviation Sales, located in Little Rock, Arkansas. While operating his new firm, he saw firsthand how difficult it was to get packages and other air freight delivered to him in 1 to 2 business days. With this term paper in mind, Smith set out to find a better way. Thus, the idea for Federal Express was born, a company that has revolutionized global business practices and that now defines speed and reliability. Smith named the company Federal Express because he believed that the patriotic meaning associated with the word federal suggested an interest in nationwide economic activity. He also hoped the name would resonate with the Federal Reserve Bank, a potential customer. Although the bank denied his proposal, Smith kept the name because he thought it was memorable and would help attract public attention, which calls back to the fact that branding is key in a lot of businesses. He chose to move the headquarters of this fledgling enterprise to Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis was chosen because of its central location within the U.S. and because Memphis International Airport was rarely closed due to bad weather. The airport was also willing to make the necessary improvements for the operation, and additional hangar space was readily available. Federal Express officially began operating on April 17, 1973, with 389 team members. That night, 14 small aircraft took off from Memphis and delivered 186 packages to 25 U.S. cities from Rochester, New York to Miami, Florida. Though the company did not show a profit until July 1975, it soon became the premier carrier of high-priority goods in the marketplace and set the standard for the express shipping industry it established. Federal Express led the way in rethinking regulation. In the mid-1970s, Federal Express successfully lobbied for air cargo deregulation, which was enacted in 1977. These changes were important because they allowed the company to use larger aircraft, Boeing 727s and McDonnell Douglas DC-10s, and spurred its rapid growth. Today, Federal Express has the world's largest all-cargo air fleet, including Boeing 777s, 767s, 757s, and MD-11s, and Airbus A300s and A310s. In the 1980s, Federal Express was well established. Its growth rate was compounding at about 40% annually, and competitors were trying to catch up. In fiscal year 1983, it reported $1 billion in revenues, making American business history as the first company to reach that financial hallmark inside 10 years of startup without mergers or acquisitions. However, it expanded into Europe and Asia by making several acquisitions. By 1989, after it purchased and integrated the Flying Tigers network into the operations, Federal Express became the world's largest full-service all-cargo airline. In another major move, Federal Express acquired Tiger International Incorporated in February 1989. With the acquisition of the Flying Tigers network, Federal Express became the world's largest full-service all-cargo airline. In 1994, the company made another significant transition by changing its name from Federal Express to FedEx as its official brand. 1 year later, it was authorized to serve China through an acquisition from Evergreen International Airlines. Under this authority, it became the sole U.S.-based all-cargo carrier with aviation rights to the world's most populous nation. Its global reach has continued to expand into what is now an unsurpassed network, delivering to customers in more than 220 countries and territories. Last and certainly not least, we have DHL. While Larry Hillblom was studying law at University of California, Berkeley's Bolt Hall School of Law in the late 1960s. Now that's a mouthful. He accepted a job as a courier for the insurance company Michaels, Poe & Associates. He started running in courier duty between Oakland International Airport and Los Angeles International Airport, picking up packages for the last flight of the day and returning on the first flight the next morning, up to 5 times a week. After he graduated, Hillblom met with MPA salesman Adrian Dalzey, and they planned to expand MPA's concept of fast delivery to other business enterprises. They flew between Honolulu and Los Angeles, transporting bills of lading for their first client, C-Tran Lines. Hillblom put up a portion of his student loans to start the company, bringing in his 2 friends Adrian Dalzey and Robert Lane as partners, with the combined initials of their surnames as the company name, DHL. Between them, they shared a Plymouth Duster that they drove around San Francisco to pick up the documents in suitcases, then rushed to the airports to book flights using another relatively new invention, the corporate credit card. As the business took off, they started hiring new couriers to join the company. Their first hires were Max and Blanche Kroll, whose apartments in Hawaii often became a makeshift flophouse for their couriers. In the 1970s, DHL was an international delivery company and the only one offering overnight service. The only major competitor in the overnight market was Federal Express, now FedEx, which did not open its first international service until 1981, expanding to Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Nevertheless, the domestic market was extremely profitable, and DHL was the third largest courier behind FedEx and UPS. Deutsche Post began to acquire shares in DHL in 1998, acquiring controlling interest in 2001. By the end of 2002, Deutsche Post had acquired all of DHL's remaining stock and absorbed the operations into its Express division. The DHL brand was expanded to other Deutsche Post divisions, business units, and subsidiaries. Today, DHL Express shares its DHL brand with other Deutsche Post business units, such as DHL Global Forwarding, DHL Freight, DHL Supply Chain, and DHL Global Mail. Each of the companies, informed and influenced through each of their histories, has a distinctly different way of getting packages to and from their customers. UPS's main strength is its domestic U.S. ground delivery service, but it also offers air and international delivery. FedEx's main strength is its domestic overnight delivery and air delivery. It also has an extensive ground and international delivery operation. DHL's main emphasis was and is their extensive international delivery capability, and also their air delivery in non-domestic, non-US locations. The volume of packages that each of these delivery services utilize is absolutely staggering. In 2018, it was estimated that 2.5 billion packages were delivered by all the shipping services during the holiday season. The time from Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, to Christmas Eve. FedEx estimated that it would ship 400 million packages during the holiday season. UPS estimated that it will ship 800 million plus the 900 million the U.S. Postal Service is expecting to move this Christmas season. Daily package volume for UPS peaked at over 35 million, up from a typical 20 million. So when a package needs to get from the North Pole to anywhere in the world, more than likely, one of these three companies is going to be used by old St. Nick. Which takes us back to Santa Claus. Is he real or not? And if real, why on earth does he need to use a shipping service to get toys to all the good girls and good boys? Well, loyal BTB Fusion viewer, Santa Claus is real because of the spirit of St. Nick. And by spirit, I don't mean ghost or anything like that, but the attitude and general disposition of the true St. Nick, Nicholas of Myra, was to protect children and give of himself to others the same way Christ gave to the church. It's that spirit and tradition of giving that lives on in us when we give of ourselves to those we love and are indifferent to, man or woman, boy or girl, in an effort to promote peace on earth and goodwill towards men. And the reason why he needs to contract that work out to UPS, FedEx, and DHL? Well, there's about 2.2 billion children on earth. To get all those presents to all those good little boys and good little girls in the 12 hours that happens overnight on Christmas Eve, it takes a lot of manpower. And those guys obviously have it. So that being said, Merry Christmas everyone, and of course, Happy New Year. Be sure to stay tuned to BTB Fusion as we got more great videos coming up.